Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Let's talk about it. And in this video, I want to share my personal experience with the Kitchener Family Court and how I believe, and it is evident, that I am involved in Canada's most corrupted family court in Canadian history. So, in May of 2022, I get served with a restraining order from lawyer John David Ekpenyung. His client, an ex-girlfriend, has decided to commence a restraining order application. Mind you, this is an ex-girlfriend that we dated off and on, and she's much older than me, very much older than me, and there was ever any zero police involvement. We'd never had any domestic issues. I helped this woman renovate her home for 14 months while I lived in Burlington, worked in Toronto, and went out to the KW area to help her on her home, work on her home on my time off. I did this for 14 months. I never got paid. I actually developed a really bad alcohol and drug dependency and habit by doing this. When you are working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, and then having to do this, it really takes a toll on the body and the mind, which didn't seem to faze anybody. It was just, why aren't you working? There was these things. So I believe this whole restraining order application stems from any potential, compensation for the work that was done. So I get served with this restraining order. At that time, I was working a really good job as a licensed electrician downtown Toronto. It was perfect. It was right by the GO train station, and it was easy for me to get on the train, get to the work. The company was great. The guys were great. It was a really good job. And once this family court stuff started rolling out, it really affected that job. And ultimately, I lost that job about within the same month. I was served in May, and it was May of 2022. I also lost that job. Dealing with John David Ekpenyung has been a nightmare. He has lied to several judges, including on May 27, 2022. We were before Justice Bingham. This lawyer told me to shut up during that proceeding, and he also lied to Justice Bingham, saying that he never received my affidavit when he knows he did, and I have proof. I sent it to him. He even responded. So that was John David Ekpenyung's first lie of many. And again, everything I say in these videos is truthful, is honest. I'm not here to bash anyone. I'm not here to mislead anyone. I'm here to share just how badly the family court treated me, and how unfair and how corrupted some of these judges were handling the case. So the case lasted 3 years. This family court case lasted 3 years. I sent offers to settle. They kept rejecting them and responding with they wanted money. They wanted $20,000 one time. Another time they wanted $27,000. And I said, why would I pay this? You want to resolve this? You want to end this? Let's do that. I could not get out of this Kitchener Family Court unless I paid. And the family court case is FC-22-109. Time is going by. So 18 months pass. We're going to fast forward. 18 months pass. And mind you, the judge handling this case, the managing the case, was Justice Martha Ann Tweedy. This may have been her first case, coming up into the Kitchener Superior Courthouse, working there as she was a justice of the peace from Brampton. She had came up there, and it seems like around the time that she got sworn in and, started working in Kitchener, that this may have been her first case. There were 18 months of unnecessary prejudice adjournments because the applicant and her lawyer, John David Ekpenyung, would either not show up to court or would not fill out the forms. The first hearing, I believe it was after the 27th of May. Mind you, one day before my birthday, they scheduled this. The first appearance that was an in-person appearance, the applicant and her lawyer never showed up. We sat there for almost 45 minutes waiting for them, and Justice Tweedy was the same thing. She never showed up. Eventually, Justice Tweedy makes her way out. I'm sitting there. I'm early. Justice Tweedy accommodates the applicant and her lawyer with a Zoom link. And, it would only be fair had they asked me if I approved of that. And they didn't. Because, I didn't have the money for a lawyer. I didn't feel like it was necessary. I'm still wondering why I'm in family court when everybody should know this, that you have to, in order to be in family court, you need to be married, have children, or live with them. None of these things ever applied. I'll get to where they try to make it seem like I was cohabitating, which I wasn't. I was renting my ex's basement. She had a tenant there, Katerina Bornrick, who lived there for 1 year prior to me moving in. Her mother, Kim Bornrick, emailed the applicant $1,400 every month. And this is something that the courts refused to make Mr. Ekping and his client prove. And this is something that the applicant and their witnesses constantly lied about. But all we have to do is show the bank accounts, show the bank statements. You'll see that this is true. But the judges didn't want to do that. So 18 months go by, and it's I can't get out of it. I can't get out of this family court case. So it was November 10th, 2024. Justice Tweedy had rejected two of the trial schedule endorsement forms. They have not been filed, served, or filed. If you look at Family Law Rule 17, Sub Rule 11, it states that parties, not a judge, parties must fill out, serve, and file that form before any trial is scheduled. That was never done. If you go look at all the files that were submitted, and I'll share that in this video, the trial schedule endorsement form was never filed with the court. So they scheduled it for a trial, and they think because I'm self-represented, I don't know these things, and they can get around abusing the process. So Justice Martha Ann Tweedy acts non-impartial. She taints the case by filling out that form. I knew she did something wrong. I knew she did something in question. I requested for the audio recordings of that hearing. Justice Tweedy denied access to those recordings. And if I'm not mistaken, she referenced a section in the Consolidated Practice Family, something that doesn't even exist. And this is what I mean by judges are abusing their power by thinking, I don't know that any party, any litigant to a matter is entitled to any audio recording. They pay the money, they fill out the form, they agree to certain terms, and they get it. Justice Tweedy didn't want to release that audio recording because she knows she did something wrong. When I ordered transcripts, I paid $300 for these transcripts. Justice Tweedy blocked out almost 2 pages of transcripts where it's pretty evident she's covering up something that she's potentially done wrong. And yet, the public has still not seen what Justice Tweedy has covered up. I'm convinced if we were to unblock those transcripts that Justice Tweedy blocked, you would see that she had filled out the trial schedule endorsement form, and this is contradictory to the rules, and she tainted the case, and she might be in a misconduct. But until we see what she's blocked out, we're not going to know that. But that's what that's what I think has happened here. We go to a speak to January 22nd. I'm at my second job now, working as an electrician at my dream job, the best job I've ever had, Scotiabank Arena. I was a licensed electrician working there. I loved that job. If I could, I would work there for free. I enjoyed it so much. And I eventually lost that job too because of family court. My boss wasn't happy the way I was performing. I wasn't there mentally. One day I'm sitting in the I had to speak to January 22nd. They made, I tell my boss, oh, I'm just going to be about a half an hour. Like, speak to, you're scheduling something. We're scheduling a trial. 60, 70 people in that room that day. They made me wait till the very end. I sat in an electrical room, and it was horrible because I'm there to work, and now I'm getting forced to go to the speak to. Mind you, John David Ekping did not show up for almost 3 hours that day. I'm sitting in there. There was another couple that actually got dismissed completely because they didn't even show up. When it was my time to get, so they called us. He wasn't there. Later on, he appears. I'm convinced someone from the court notified him and said, hey, you're being called to court. Right? We're told to be there at 10 in the morning. It's now way past lunch. We get to speak to Justice Madison. Justice Madison asked Mr. Ekping how many days is the trial. He lies and says 3, knowing it's only 2. She confirms that it's 2. So he's lied again. Justice Madison asked if Ekping has filed his trial record. He says on record he did. I said he did not. The judge confirms he didn't. He lies again. Right? So it gets scheduled for a trial. They're like, you could be called any day. You could be called in, I tell my boss, I get called for the trial. I tell my boss, I get laid off. I lose my job because now this family court is affecting my job. It's affecting my employment. It's affecting my mental health. Courts don't care. John David Ekping doesn't care. I sent offers to settle, matching their offer. They always came back and said, no, we want tens of thousands of dollars. We get called for a trial. February 6th, I get a call from the court. Your trial is being scheduled tomorrow. We go to the trial. At that trial, Justice Michael Gibson is the judge overseeing the case. I did some research about Justice Gibson. He's the only judge in Ontario that was in the Canadian Armed Forces, I believe, that was a judge. He was in the Army, the Canadian Armed Forces. He did a lot of work. I came with my A game. I had nothing but respect. Even if I didn't know that, I came with nothing but respect for this judge. Before the hearing starts, before the trial starts, I said to Justice Gibson, I said, excuse me, Your Honor. I said, the other party never filed, or scheduled their trial schedule endorsement form. And the judge says to me, oh, well, we're here now. Well, we're going to deal with it. Mind you, this is Kitchener's top judge. Kitchener's the local senior judge. There's rules. No trial should be scheduled without that. Mind you, you've got Justice Tweedy, who just filled out their application on their behalf, and then the applicant or lawyer didn't even file it with the courts. So that Justice Gibson is saying, oh, we're here now, we're going to deal with it. Well, no, I shouldn't even be in family court, let alone a trial. So Justice Gibson forces me to go to this trial. Mind you, I've got a head injury that I'm going to get into another video where I was brutally assaulted by the police while being detained. That my head has never been the same since. And that happened in the same year of 2022. 2022 was supposed to be a good year. It wasn't because of these courts, because of these situations. The trial is undergo. 2-day trial. The applicant has 2 witnesses, Kim Bornerick, Mark Van Loven. Okay. Kim Bornerick is the applicant's best friend of 20, 30 years. Her daughter was renting the basement. And they lied about it throughout this whole proceeding, leading up. And then Mark was the contractor. So during questioning, when I got up to my turn, John David Ekping, if you look at the audio recordings, you could hear that John David Ekping was just rambling on for 80% of the time. When Kim's up, I'm questioning her. Excuse me. She gets caught lying. She at first admitted that her daughter never rented the basement, and then later on, she admitted that her daughter did rent the basement. And she got caught reading from a notepad. She also admitted that she was coached from John David Ekping-Young, the lawyer, a day before. It was obvious that they had ill intent that day. The applicant also had a doctor's note to read notes from a notepad. So you could see the premeditated preparation. This is the mindset they had to have to go into this. They had to cheat. They had to lie. And then when also Kim admitted to being coached by John David Ekping-Young, that's when John David Ekping-Young's hands kind of just went up to his head. And he was in shock that she said that. When it was Mark's turn to get up and talk, he admitted to witnessing hundreds of harassing text messages. Like, they're trying to paint me as this person that I'm not. And so when Mark was asked to give a example, he couldn't give one example. Just to back it up a bit here, this all stemmed from an illegal eviction. I was renting the basement of the applicant. They tried to paint a picture that we were cohabitating. We were not. I will be doing another video about the landlord-tenant board and dealing with them in the eviction. A very important and crucial document that was available on case lines that Justice Gibson may or may not have viewed. I think he did. He may say he didn't. But it was a police report written by the applicant admitting to the Waterloo police that I was a tenant, that I was paying rent, and that she applied to the landlord-tenant board for an eviction application, which she did. I was never married with this person. I didn't have children with this person. I didn't live with this person. I did not cohabitate. I was renting her basement. And I was evicted from the direction of her lawyer, John David Ekping-Young. Excuse me. So, and also at that trial, there was a document that John David Ekping-Young commissioned without his client's signature, which he's done this 4 or 5 times. Mind you, the restraining order application was commissioned. It was never signed. So I got dragged to family court on a restraining order application that was never signed. Does that not make it invalid? There was a document that commissioned unsigned document, excuse me, from the John. There was a document. Sorry, guys. There was a document that John David Ekping-Young commissioned without his client's signature, where he admitted to all these different costs that his client paid. One of them was, and John David Ekping-Young has admitted this several times, his client paid a block fee of $7,000 plus tax. Okay, $7,910. Justice Gibson lost it. Justice Gibson lost it on John David Ekping-Young and said he was going to make note of that. Well, like, a lawyer should know better. He scolded him. A lawyer should know better, and to commission documents without his client's signature. Like, he lost it. You guys can hear it on the audio recording that anyone can order. And he said he would make note of it. This was in February. So in April 16th, we get the judge's decision. This judge took 10 weeks, 11 weeks to render a decision that was a no-brainer. Okay? This was a rigged trial and a decision that should not have put 10 weeks of thought into it. And this just kind of shows how some of these patterns are in question of this genuine operations. Justice Michael Gibson decides to ruin my life and to put out an endorsement publicly stating I called the applicant, I emailed her, I breached my temporary restraining order, and I was not a tenant. You know what? That was a straight up a lie. That is straight up misleading and a contradictive statement, considering I provided, the applicant tried to provide 1 day of phone calls, private calls, saying I made those calls. At the trial, she said she never picked them up. I provided my phone history. Mind you, I want nothing to do with this person. I really don't. I was illegally evicted in March 28, 2022. I'm able to move everything out in April. And April 8th, I moved everything out. I sent an email. I moved on. I left. And then all this crap with the family court started. So I never made those calls. I honestly never made those calls. I want nothing to do with her. I provided my phone history. He says I emailed her. She emailed herself. If you look at that email, which is an exhibit, you can see she copied and pasted an email that I sent to her lawyer that she emailed to her one email to her next email. The judge says I was not a tenant. I was a tenant. I was renting the basement of an ex-girlfriend with a police report that she wrote admitting I was a tenant paying rent. And then the judge is saying that I breached a temporary restraining order by serving her court documents in a courthouse because her lawyer wasn't there. There's nothing wrong with that. That is not a breach. I was never charged with the breach. I was never warned with the breach. The judge sitting in that day, Justice McLeod, said I did nothing wrong. The police that day said I did nothing wrong. So for Justice Gibson to write that on the endorsement is horseshit. Justice Gibson is saying that he didn't believe me. Meanwhile, they were caught lying. I was honest. I was respectful. Why would Justice Gibson do that to me? See, now most people are going to read that endorsement and they're going to say, nope, the judge is right. Look at him, he's credible. No, he's not right. He intentionally provided misleading information on that endorsement that cannot be backed up by any of the evidence or exhibits that were submitted in that trial. Okay? So, and then he hammers me with a lifetime restraining order against someone I had no police history with. I never lived with. I was never married with. I never had children with. I tried to get out of this. And this judge hammers me with a lifetime restraining order from a person, an ex, who lives in Cambridge, Ontario. I live in Burlington, Ontario. She admitted at the trial she frequents to Burlington. She's 7 businesses. Which makes me nervous because to see what she's capable of doing. And now they're trying to put more restraints on me by saying I can't communicate indirectly, which I haven't and I don't intend on. And now they're trying to make it. I got a phone call actually recently from Constable Brown of the Waterloo Police because her lawyer, John David Ekpin-Young, they don't like me telling the truth. They've been caught lying. They've been caught committing perjury. They've submitted fraudulent bills of cost, and they don't want the public to know. And to be quite frankly, these judges don't want the public to know. So I am a little bit worried but I feel like I need to get the truth out. This is my side of the event. This is my side of these events. And just because a judge says on the paper this, that doesn't mean it's true. When judges make mistakes, they keep covering it up. And that's what's happening. So John David Ekpin-Young asked me, so they win costs. They were awarded costs. I exercised Rule 24 of the family law, and even though a party is successful, the losing party can still ask for costs. If the other party has caused unnecessary adjournments, they were not prepared, they wasted court time, like everything that they did do, and it was evident that they did do, the losing party can ask for costs. So I did that. I lost 2 jobs over this. I had to get put on being a licensed electrician in the union. I had to go to the bottom of the list. I lost a significant amount of potential income. My mental health was was affected. I said, hey, I spent over 300 hours on this case. I lost tens of thousands of dollars. I asked for $15,000, and I thought it was fair. John David Ekpyung, sorry to back it up a bit, he requested $15,000. I said, I'm not paying that. I'll give you $1,000. Why would I pay that? I'm not paying it. Sorry, I'm not paying that. You're not fair. You've lied. You've been dishonest. I'm not paying that. When it was, we had asked for costs from the judge. I asked for $15,000. John David Ekpyung, I can't believe. Excuse me. John David Ekpyung, I can't believe, was so stupid and so ignorant. He submits a fraudulent bill of $160,000 that was never paid or hours worked. I thought for sure Justice Gibson would have done the right thing and called him out on that fraudulent bill. But the problem is, Justice Gibson did the exact opposite. Justice Gibson entertained that fraudulent bill. And he just, it sickens me when I read that endorsement from Justice Gibson. The one for the restraining order and this one for the cost. Like, I have a criminal case ongoing, and I'm pretty sure the 10 weeks that Justice Gibson took, I'm pretty sure he looked into my background and he saw that case. And I feel from the actions and what was actually done at that trial and what was put on that endorsement is extremely contradictory. And these courts are just unnecessarily making it more difficult for me to address this criminal stuff. The police brutality case where I got put in the hospital with a head injury when I was detained and hogtied and dragged out of a casino. And the security, casino security, who are lying about things. And the cop who put me in the hospital was charged with assaulting and hospitalizing a child in 2017. So Justice Gibson was in the Canadian Armed Forces. The cop who assaulted me was in the Canadian Armed Forces. Evan Gorman. The adjudicator at the Landlord-Tenant Board, Robert Patchett, was in the Canadian Armed Forces. So I feel like there's some type of connection there that Justice Gibson is aware of. And they're working against me. And they're being unfair. So Ekpyung submits a fraudulent bill of $160,000. Justice Gibson entertains it, doesn't call him out on it, doesn't ask for any proof of payment, orders me to pay $60,000 3 days after my 40th birthday. Crushing my mental health, affecting my third job working out in Windsor. And I am convinced, and so now, that was in May. So June, July, August, 3 months go by. I don't know what to do. I'm ordered to pay court costs. There's zero communication about making payments with John David Ekpyung. Zero communication. Did not make 1 ounce of effort to reach out to me through text, email, phone call saying, hey, when do you want to start making payments? Well, actually, I'll tell you guys this. We actually agreed on paying $500 a month. $500 a month on payments. Making payment plans. I'm like, okay, whatever. Because they froze my bank accounts. That's what happened. They froze my bank accounts. Which really affected my job, paying for my Airbnb. They would not release it at all. We agreed on making $500 payments. John David Ekpyung goes to the client. Okay, good. We're about to do it. John Ekpyung's client backs out. Somehow bumps into my aunt in Cambridge. And my aunt tells me that they bumped and she told her that my grandma died. I'm just like, why would you even talk to her? They know what's going on. The lawyer gets back to me, says that they talked, they bumped into whatever it was, and my aunt told her, the applicant, my grandma died. The applicant is now under the impression I inherited all this money. Mind you, my grandmother died April 5th. She passed away April 5th, 2023. We're in September of 2024, around there, August. Was it August? No, it was September. Yeah, September, because my bank accounts got frozen in September. John Ekpyung They back out of the payment plan. Like, no, we want $10,000. We want $60,000. Demanding all this ridiculous amount of money that I don't have. I'll show you guys the emails between me and Ekping and just what a piece of shit he is. Because if I had children or if I had a mortgage and you go run to the courts and say I refuse to make payments and they start doing this, I would lose everything. The children, I have cats that are being affected by this, my animals, myself. This guy has no common sense about how much this has affected me, the efforts I'm making. The courts are fully aware of all this. So they back out of the payment plan. And then I have to go deal with this whole garnishment thing with the court. So I eventually have to walk away from my job. There's layoffs. I get laid off. I cannot continue to pay for my Airbnb with these financial restrictions, with these mental restrictions, having to take time off of work, fill out forms. You can't do both. And when your bank accounts are frozen, you can't hire a lawyer to do these things. So this is what he did. He freezes my bank accounts and then he starts pulling all these tricks out the hat. So that was the other thing, was this garnishment I had to deal with the Kitchener Family Court, is that I get hit with a garnishment application. The garnishment application says if you don't respond, they could take up to 20% off your paycheck. So I'm scrambling around trying to get stuff filled out. Mind you, I'm just trying to work my job out in Windsor at the battery plant. I'm working there, making good money. The most money I've ever made, the most taxes I've ever paid. And this garnishment thing's underway. The Kitchener Courthouse gave me nothing but problems filing. And mind you, there was nothing wrong with my filings. They always got accepted from the supervisors. They just gave me a hard time. They would get, there was like a file number. The file number changed. There was like an E at the end, and like the 4 zeros. There was an E, and they kept rejecting it, saying, oh, it's a different file number. I mean, I don't know anything about this. No one's telling me anything about it. That whole garnishment thing happened too. And, it was like October 29th. We go before Justice B. Smith. John David Ekping, like most times, didn't file any of his materials. It gets adjourned to, I think it was January the 9th. I had to wait from October 29th, to January 9th because he didn't come prepared. I'm struggling. I'm mentally, financially struggling. All John David Ekping and his client have to do is unfreeze my bank accounts so I can start making payments. They don't want to do that. They don't want to accept the money. They're trying to put me on the street with the pattern of what they're doing. So we get before, again, is Justice Tweedy. Justice Tweedy is now doing this garnishment. And again, John David Ekping did not file any materials. I'm at a garnishment hearing that a dispute that they originally started, they did not file any materials. I continue to ask Justice Tweedy, why did she block out those transcripts and what is she covering up? She refused to answer every single time and ignored me because she knows she's done something wrong. I was under a lot of distress that day, and Justice Tweedy ignorantly says on her endorsement she didn't know I was under distress because I never filled out the Form 13, a financial form, which states is specifically for spousal support and child support. Okay? I'm not there for that. So what does Justice Tweedy end up doing? She dismisses the dispute. I lose the dispute because I didn't fill out that form. I sent her a form. I sent her like a spreadsheet of my income, my finances. I'm leaking like $2,000 a month. I'm about to be on the streets. And these judges just don't give a shit. I lost a garnishment dispute with a judge who has been caught in the past doing corrupted type of behavior, being dishonest, blocking out transcripts, refusing to release the audio recordings where I can prove she's done something seriously wrong, where the Canadian Judicial Council would probably discipline her, and she's refusing to release that information. And then she dismisses my dispute, my garnishment dispute. That was in January. We're now in March of 2025. I still don't know what's going on. John David Ekping has blocked me everywhere. I call him, I beg, I plead. Can you please unfreeze my bank accounts? I'm struggling. My animals are struggling. I can't pay my bills. I'm going to be on the street. This guy doesn't give a shit. This guy is a straight up poster boy scumbag who got away with abusing the courts, lying to the judges, submitting fraudulent bills of cost. You should see this guy acting in court. I have witnesses that come with me, and they can't believe it. These judges are allowing this. So the family court, the Kitchener family court, ruined my life, financially, mentally. Justice Tweedy caused unnecessary and prejudiced adjournments, so bad to the point where she had to do the counsel's job and fill out trial schedule endorsement form that was never properly filled out, served, and filed by the applicant, which Rule 17, Subrule 11 states parties must do before any trial is scheduled. The trial scheduling office, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but with an interaction with Salone French, was the one who scheduled the trial. And she should know better that to not schedule a trial without that form. She says to me, there was a day in the court where I went to the court, I went up to talk to her. It was a big scene that she caused. She called the cops on me. She called security on me for no reason. Because she's being questioned about doing something wrong. She's being questioned. Her office has done something wrong. And that is scheduling a trial without the trial schedule endorsement form. And she knows she did something wrong. I said, hey, I'm about to lose everything. I'm about to be on the streets. She said to me, quote unquote, I don't care. She says, I don't care that you're pretty much going to be on the streets. And I brought this to her supervisor's attention, John Hornby, and he says he's going to look into it. He's gone MIA. I haven't heard from him. And then, Kitchener's top judge, Justice Michael Gibson, decides to just annihilate me. I sent him a letter that I later found out I wasn't supposed to send him, that he was not supposed to receive under the communication rules. And I believe he didn't like what I said in that letter, and that's why he ordered me to pay $60,000. It's really a disgrace how this Kitchener courthouse is being ran, what these judges are getting away with, that the Canadian taxpayers are paying for this. You guys are paying for this. And think about it. I get dragged to the family court with an applicant I was never married with, never had children with, never lived with, on a restraining order application that was never signed. A police report was withheld that admitted the living situations. We were not cohabitating. There was a landlord-tenant eviction application that was withheld, that the applicant filed with the landlord-tenant board. That was withheld. Trial schedule endorsement form was never filled out, served, and filed by the applicant, nor was it filed with the court. That needs to be done before any trial is scheduled. That was never done. And on top of that, the judge knew that they paid $7,900, entertains a fraudulent bill of $160,000, orders me to pay $60,000 3 days after my 40th birthday. And you guys are wondering why I might be upset. I might be frustrated. I really need the help from the public to hear about this. They're making it impossible for me to appeal this. I've been to the Court of Appeal. John David Ekping has he submitted his materials 10 minutes before that appeal, the Court of Appeal, before Justice Favreau. It was unsigned, uncommissioned, and that judge accepted it. I was fully prepared. I did everything they asked me to do. When the judge, at the end of it, Justice Gibson made obvious errors of law and facts. Obvious. And basically, I lost the appeal for an extension of time. It was a motion for an extension of time. I never lost an appeal. John David Ekping continues to say that. And so John David Ekping, because I lost that motion, he requested for cost. So John David Ekping wrote a 2-page factum. He wrote an 8-page affidavit. Said he spent 30 hours on those materials. Mind you, I've got these emails where he has communicated with the Court of Appeal. I believe it was Simon, talking at 4:30 on a Friday, talking about submit the materials. He sends me his materials on Sunday at 10 o'clock at night. Friday 4:30, Sunday 10:30. 50-hour window period. He says he spent 30 hours on it. He requested for $7,000. And because he's under the impression he can get away with abusing the courts, he can get away with submitting fraudulent bills, he submits another fraudulent bill, and Justice Freyview entertained that fraudulent bill of cost, and she awarded him $2,500. So I am dealing with a serious and obvious broken pattern of just corruption. People in power are being dishonest. They're deleting endorsements. They're blocking out transcripts. They're providing intentional misleading statements that cannot be backed up by evidence or facts. Why? I was a hard-working licensed electrician. These courts ruined my life. You think the applicant's paying taxes? No. You think that this lawyer's paying taxes? Barely. I was paying almost $6,000 a month in taxes working out in Windsor, paying for these judges, paying for these courts. And what do? They take me out of commission. Why would these judges do this? We're supposed to put our trust into the courts that are going to be handled fairly. Judges are supposed to make, if you go on the Canadian Judicial Council, judges are supposed to make decisions solely off evidence and facts and not be prejudiced and biased and unfair, which these judges did to me. So there's going to be branch off videos and stories, I guess, like truthful experiences with this courthouse. This is kind of going to be the base of it all, but I'm struggling mentally, financially. I'm barely hanging on. I'm entertaining claiming bankruptcy because of what happened to me in this family court. They're making it impossible for me to appeal. And I need to do that. I need to appeal this so the nation can really know about it. But they're protecting each other. It's like an all-boys club, right? And I believe they've dug themselves such a deep hole that I can't win in the Kitchener court anymore. And I have a few other cases there that I'm going to be talking about. And it's pretty evident the pattern of seems to be some type of influence on whoever's in charge of these court proceedings to not let me win. Because it all comes back on Justice Gibson's endorsement of his statements. And once I get an in, they know it's over. So they have to shut me down every chance they get, and they cannot let me in. So I'm going to stop the video there. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. I'm just trying to get the truth out. I'm trying to get really what happened to me in this Kitchener family court, get it out to the public with some of these judges' actions. I think it's obvious that the misconducts that have been, that are in question. And, it's been extremely difficult, especially dealing with John David Ekping, who will not unfreeze my bank accounts. He will not accept a payment plan. He doesn't show up to court most of the time. He doesn't fill out and file forms. It's a handicap match. It's a straight up handicap match. Going before the Kitchener court and John David Ekping and his client. And why? So I'm very disappointed. What I had to go through. I'm hoping I can bounce back mentally and financially. I don't think I ever will, to be honest. But I want to share my story. I want to share my experience. And hopefully no one else has to go through what I went through. And hopefully one day there's accountability against those who have taken an oath to conduct themselves professionally and fairly, and that are getting paid by the hard-working Canadian tax dollars that money's getting misused. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. And then if you guys don't mind, Please like, comment, share. If you have any feedback, if you guys want to share your experience, let me know. And, we can get a conversation started. So thank you guys for watching. And this has been Let's Talk About It.